Assalamualaikum. Welcome to NCB TV YouTube channel. Get a temporary residence permit in Portugal. Dear viewers, international individuals who wish to work and stay for longer than 90 days in Portugal may apply for a Portugal residence permit. The residence permit is usually long-term from 1 year up to 3 years. You may be eligible for different types of permits depending on the region why you are moving to Portugal and how long you plan to stay. First, what is a Portugal residence permit? A Portugal residence permit is an official authorization that lets third country nationals work and lives in Portugal. Generally speaking, Portugal issues two different types of permits. Number 1, residency visas. Number 2, residence permits. Residence visas. These visas are always short-term, usually only 3 or 4 months. They are issued by Portuguese embassy for the sole purpose of granting the applicant entry into Portugal before registering as a resident. Once a foreigner enters Portugal with their residency visa, they have 4 months to register at the Immigration and Border Service (SEF) to get their residence permit. Residence permits. These permits are temporary, usually valid for a year, and can be renewed annually depending on how long the applicant needs to stay in Portugal. Holders of a temporary permit can switch to permanent residence permit when they have lived in Portugal for at least 5 years. Permanent permits are available to those who wish to continue living indefinitely in Portugal. Those who don't plan to do so can continue extending their temporary permit. Types of a Portugal residence permits. Here is a list of different types of Portugal residence permits. Residence permit for work purpose, residence permit for study purpose, resident permit for family reunion application, special residence permit. Portugal residence permit for work. You can receive a Portuguese residence permit for work if you have secured employment in Portugal. In order to qualify for this residence permit, the job position you applied for must have not been filled by an EU national within the last month. When you want to apply for the permit, your employer must start the application for the work permit at the Portuguese labor authorities. Afterward, you apply for a visa at the local embassy in your country of residence. Once you have been granted a residency visa, you must travel to Portugal, where you can apply for a residence permit at the Immigration and Border Service (SEF). Your first residence permit is issued for a year, but it can be extended according to your needs and your employment contract. In terms of work permits, there are several types depending on the work you will be doing. Like that, work visa for skilled workers, work visa for high-skilled workers, work visa for self-employment, work visa for cultural activities, tech visa, work visa for teaching, T7 passive income visa. Portugal residence permit for study purpose. A resident permit for students in Portugal is given to the international students outside the EU who have been accepted into an educational institution in Portugal. This permit is also valid for a year and can be renewed every year to the duration of your study program. If you want to stay in Portugal after you finish your studies, you must have a job so you can switch to a Portugal work visa. Portugal residence permit for family reunification. You must apply for this type of residence permit if you want to move to Portugal to join in close family member who is either a resident in Portugal or a citizen. A family member includes a spouse or registered partner, a minor child, biological, or adopt a child of age but who is dependent on the Portuguese resident, a direct descendant who is dependent on the resident. The permit is valid for the same amount of time as the residence permit of the Portuguese resident. In case of partners who have been married for 5 years, then the permit initially is valid for 2 years and then it can be renewed every 3 years. The holders of this permit can work freely and study in Portugal, and after 5 years they can apply for permanent resident. Special residence permit for Portugal. A Portugal residence permit can be issued based on specific situations. These all depend on the unique situation of the applicant. However, some of the most common types of special situations residence permit include residence permits for individuals who suffer from health conditions requiring prolonged medical care. Residence permit for individuals who have completed military service in the Portuguese Armed Force. Residence permits for minors born in national territory to foreign parents who are holders of residence permits. Residence permit children of resident permit holders who have reached the age of majority and remained on a regular basis in the national territory from the age of 10. Residence permits for individuals of age who were born in the national territory and never left the territory or who remained in Portugal from before they were 10. Portugal residence permit requirements. There are the documents you need to prepare when you apply for a Portugal residence permit. Valid passport to recent identity pictures, application form when initially apply for your residence visa, valid residence visa, the 3-4 month long visa before you apply for your permit, evidence of sufficient financial means, proof of accommodation, health insurance, of supporting evidence he or she is covered by the National Health Service, family certificate if applicable, criminal certificate, parental consent if applicable, employment contract, acceptance letter from university student visa, and paid tuition fees student visa. Please remember that your documents need to be translated into either English or Portuguese if they are not already, and some documents may require legalization. Make sure to check with the embassy before you apply.